Hello, crafty people. Welcome back. Still working on our file folder project. I believe we are beginning part 7 now. So let's see, right where we left off last time, we had done the 2 tags on the inside and we were getting ready to start this journaling card right here. And so that's what we're going to do today. This journaling card, and then hopefully you've been looking for your papers for your signatures, because that is also the process we're going to start. So let me set this off to the side. Gone ahead and gathered some materials to get us started, and actually I'm going to set this off to the side as well. Don't need that. We're making this journaling card. It's a tall, slender card that just opens up. So super easy to make. I have gathered a couple of book pages that I'm going to glue together. And my ruler, the base of my card is going to be, let's see, about 6, let's go 6 1/4 by, let's say 8 inches. That makes it easy. 6 1/4 by 8 inches. And I realized in watching my videos that sometimes when I write in pencil, you're not seeing it. So 6 1/4 by 8 inches. And that is the size of my book pages. But if you don't have book pages that tall, use something else. I'm sure you will come up with something. So I've heard from several of you that are doing this project, and I'm really excited for that. But I've only seen a couple of your projects. So if you have Instagram, please make sure you tag me over there on Instagram. I'm not on Facebook very much at all, so probably wouldn't see it there. Or if you do any YouTube videos of your projects, make sure to tag me here on YouTube. And I'll see them there. All right. Just giving that a nice, good, even coat. And I'm doubling up my book page because I want it to be thicker. I want it to be more sturdy. So. And just spread my glue out here so I don't have any large globs. Make sure everything's nice and even. You only get 30 to 40 seconds to work with Fabri-Tac or 3-in-1 before it's stuck for good. Okay, now need to trim that to the size I said. Let me grab my rather large and bulky, cumbersome paper trimmer. What'd I say? I said 6 1/4 by 8. So that means I'm going to have to unfold my paper trimmer, which I don't do very often. Usually I use my ruler to measure it and then cut, so I don't have to unfold anything. Great. I'm trying to find a good straight edge because I had some torn edges there. I'm just straightening my edges up a little bit. All right. Okay. 6 1/4 was my width. 6 1/4 it is by 8 inches tall. So cut there, then I'll cut some off this other side. There we are. 6 1/4 by 8. Let's see, then all I did was fold it in half, the lengthways. So then now my journaling card should measure like 3 1/8 by 8, now that it's folded. I'm going to grab my little corner rounder. I'm using my We Are Memory Keepers Crocodile Corner Chomper. And I am using the 1/4 inch quarter rounder. It really doesn't matter. Okay. And so there's the base for our journaling card. So after that, you can kind of personalize it yourself. But I'm going to make mine identical to the one I made before. And so I had used some of this paper. I'm going to use that again. And I'm just going to cut this paper to fit inside my journaling card. Width and height. Okay. I'm going to cut that. And on this one, I did some zigzag stitching just to do something a little bit different. But I sewed all the way through my journaling card. You don't have to do that. You can just stitch through the paper if you want to, or you don't have to do any stitching. But I just kind of liked the look on the inside, just letting the stitches show. So that's what I'm going to do again. Anyway, but I'm going to do that off camera. But I'm going to now ink up my tag all around the edges. I'm going to cut that to fit, ink it up, glue it on, and then I'm going to stitch around the edges of it, and then I'll come right back. Okay, so as you could see, I inked everything up, glued that on, and stitched around the edges. You saw that. And then I'm using the yellow banner out of the little embellishment kit, if you're using the same as me. And I just sanded them up a little bit to knock the shine off, like I've been doing in all the previous videos, and then inked them up a little bit. And here's the little blue flower that's in there. All these little extra touches like this. That's why a digital kit would work perfectly for a project like this. Okay, and then on the inside, I had placed some lined paper. I don't seem to have any more of that at the ready, but I had a sheet of dot grid paper, so I'm just going to trim that to fit, I think. So let me trim this off real quick. Here, let me pause. I'll come right back. Okay, so I went ahead and inked that up and glued it on. That was that dot grid paper there on the inside. And then I had enough dot grid paper left out of that little sheet that I went ahead and put some on the back. I didn't put anything on the back of the first one, but why not, right? And then let's glue our bees on. So I'm just using those little trio of bees. And I let them overhang just a tad. So I guess I should probably ink up the edges a little bit that are going to show around the journaling card. I'm wondering if you can hear my wind chimes out there. Those are my lovely wind chimes I got from Lisa with her channel Serious Hecka. You'll hear me mention her quite a bit. She and Judy are my besties. She gave me a set of wind chimes for my birthday, and they're just so lovely, but it's so windy outside today. Oh my goodness. They said we have winds of 25 to 35 mile an hour. Like, that's just the straight up wind. Like, it's not stopping. And then we have gusts up to 60 mile an hour today. So I'm just hoping we don't lose power. Okay, that's that. We've made our journaling card. Okay, so let's put these back where they go. This is my new one. I'm going to put it in the new journal. Okay, and put my other one where it goes. And then if you see down there at the bottom, I have a little bee that I've glued on down there in the corner of the pocket. So I'll do that off camera on mine. You don't need to see me do that. I don't even know what I set the little bee out, and I don't even know what I've done with him now. Oh, there he is. So I'm just gonna sand him a little bit, ink him on. I'll put him down here in the corner, and I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna use some of this little bit of burlap to put behind him. I might do that. I'm gonna set him off to the side. I'll do that later. Okay, as promised, I said we were going to work on our signatures. So also now would be the time to decide if you think you're going to put eyelets and elastics in yours, or whether or not you're going to just sew your signatures directly into your spine. So I would not recommend doing elastics in your journal if you do not have a way to set eyelets, because it will rip right through your file folder after a while. So if you don't have a way to do eyelets, then you probably just want to sew your journal signatures straight into the spine, okay? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But right now, all we're going to do is mess with our papers some. And I'll show you how I put my two signatures together, what I used, and all that. So I'm just moving both my journal covers out of the way and giving myself some room to bring my papers over. And I will go through what I did. We'll just at least go through this first signature. Because I actually made them pretty much identical. So I used a full new sheet of this paper, and depending on the size of the file folders you used, you may need to adjust the size of the height of your papers or the width of your papers depending on what size your file folders were. So make sure you take that into consideration. I was using, if you remember, the standard letter sized file folders, US letter sized file folders, and they are 11.5 inches long, and they're like roughly, let me check, they're like roughly 9 inches tall. They're about somewhere close to that. So if you're using that size file folder, this should work for you. So I am going to make a signature. By the way, if you're a beginner, most of you already know this that watch me, but if you're a beginner, a signature is your group of papers that are sometimes stitched together, or they're just folded and then stitched directly into your book. Okay, it's just your stack of papers that you folded each one in half and put them in the order that you want, and you've made a signature. Okay, and so a journal or a book will have multiple signatures of papers. Okay, so that's where that word comes from. If you're a beginner, now you know. All right, and I like to put my signatures, I like for them to have a little bit of a heavier cover on them, especially when you're doing the pull-out kind, like for a traveler's notebook style. It just gives them some stability. Okay, mine were trimmed to 8 inches tall. I measured that twice while I was talking. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to trim this real quick over here to the side. I'm using a 12 by 12 sheet of scrapbook paper, so I just needed to cut some off. All right, so now I'm 8 inches tall, and let's see, I did mine 5 inches, so my whole thing needs to be 10 across. Hang on to your scraps. You're going to use those. Okay, so we're 10 inches tall, or 10 inches wide. And now I'm going to fold it in half. Trying to fold it as neatly as I can. Okay. Then the next thing I did is, because this is flimsy, I'm only using single-sided paper. Now, if you're using a heavier cardstock paper, then, you know, you don't need to bulk it up, but I'm not. So I'm going to digging through my papers over here. I'm looking for a couple book pages. That's what I'm going to use to sturdy up my journal cover. And I'm just being a little bit particular, that's all. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to use this one. And I just need to trim my book pages, okay, to fit each side. I did not glue across the fold. I kept the fold separate, but, you know, that's up to you. You know, another thing I wanted to mention to you is that when we were making our journal card just a few minutes ago, if you're using older book pages that are kind of brittle, you could always, and I probably will on this one, you could always do some washi tape down the fold to help sturdy that up so it doesn't crack. And these book pages are vintage. They are a little bit old and brittle. So I think I will, I'm going to end up gluing this washi tape down later so that it's more permanent, and that'll help stabilize that crease. And I'll do that on the other one I already made, so, but I'll do that off camera. But I meant to tell you that. Okay, what was I doing? Back to what I was doing. Okay, I'm going to trim my book pages to fit each side of my paper. Okay, so I'm doing what, like 5 by, I think it was 8, and a 5 by 8 book page. Okay, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so I've trimmed 2 pieces of book page to fit perfectly on each side there. And now I'm going to ink up the edges and glue them down into place. Okay, I'll come right back. Okay, so that's done. And I got to thinking about it after we talked about the journaling card reinforcing the crease. And I think because my paper is so thin, I didn't do it on my original one. I probably should have, but I didn't. But I think I am going to go ahead and reinforce that with some washi tape. Or another sheet of paper would work great for doing that. Just a strip of paper that you could glue down would work perfectly for that. Okay, so I'm just going to center this over my crease. I like to put it down first and then just kind of like lightly pull it down. Oy. Yay, you guys get to watch me struggle on camera today. Hate it when that happens. All right. There we go. I'm just kind of lightly putting it in place so I know where I want it to go. And then I kind of lift it up. I don't want to get a lot of excess glue in places I don't need. That's why I kind of tend to do it this way. And washi tape's great if, you know, if it's something you want to peel back off, but I don't know. I've just never been a huge fan of washi tape because I'm just like one of those people that's like, if I have to glue it down, what's the point of it? But I know it's so that it's removable. I think more when you're doing like bullet journals and stuff, maybe. I don't know. I look at it more as like ready-made paper strips to glue down. I didn't think about whether or not this color was going to match the outside. Oops, now look what I've done. See? This is why me and washi tape don't get along. Yeah, that is some really thin washi tape. It just tears way too easily. I guess it won't add a lot of bulk to my crease that way, will it? You know what? I'm gonna let it go. That's what it's getting. It's gonna get washi tape on the inside and not on the outside because I am done struggling with it. I have never been a very patient crafter. All right. It's not perfect, but it will reinforce. Ugh. Put the lid on my glue. I'm having a volcanic eruption over there. Okay. There's the outside. Now let's just kind of go through what I did on the inside. I used I'm just gonna put my papers together so I can show you. My first one, I used a plain coffee dyed sheet of paper, and all of these are going to have to be trimmed to the proper height and width. Okay, see, they're too big, but I'm not doing that right now. I'll do that off camera. Let's see. Then I put in, I like to have a little bit of size variation. So I did use a smaller piece of paper. Mine was yellow the first time around, but this time it's going to be a dot grid paper. And I used a small, like a half sheet of coffee dyed paper that adds some variation in sizes. Then I had a book page, and I know you can't write on book pages. That's the fun thing about junk journals. Use that piece of paper like this, because then when it comes time for you to write in your journal, or you can glue pictures to them, you can glue mementos, souvenirs, you can glue a regular sheet of paper down and then write on it. You can do art on these pieces of paper. Then I had a thin sheet, like a piece of tracing paper. I also like to, in my signatures, have different thicknesses of paper. I like to have different textures of paper, so that way they're very tactile. Then I used another sheet of coffee dyed paper. This time I had one that I had coffee dyed and used a plastic doily on, or a plastic tablecloth. So I got a neat effect. And then came my window envelope, and the reverse side of my window envelope, I did a book page pocket, and we're going to do that just a second. So I've got 2 pieces of book page. That's going to be my pocket that we're going to make in just a second. I'm going to finish going through my papers. I had, let's see, I had another small, like half sheet of paper. I'm just going to use that up. That works. I threw a sheet of yellow paper in there. That was pearlescent. This paper I got from Lisa, it's really pretty and it goes great with this theme. Okay. Then I had another sheet of plain coffee dyed paper. I like to have plenty of writing pages, especially in a journal like what we made with all the flips and tucks and the pockets and all that, because you're going to have plenty of journaling cards, little, you know, little cutesy places to write. So then in my journal signatures, I wanted like actual, like meaty journaling places. Okay, then I have one more sheet of paper that I did a pocket page out of, and we're going to do that on camera as well. So one more sheet of coffee dyed paper. That's going to be for our special pocket. In fact, I'm going to set that off to the side. Let me grab my window envelope and my book pages. I'm going to set those off to the side. I threw in like an invoice carbon copy, just some kind of random thing. I'm sure your pages are going to be really random too. And then one more sheet of coffee dyed paper, just for good measure, in the center. So I have no idea what that adds up to be, but it's probably 13 to 15. That's what my normal is. And I will have to trim all of these to fit my journal cover, or my signature cover, and I'll do that off camera. Okay. All right. So those are the pages I used for this signature. And spoiler alert, for the second signature, find what I did with the thing. Here it is. My second signature, I did the same exact papers, okay? Except for I used the bees paper, okay? Same process. I did the book pages on the inside. We'll get to the pockets later. And I used the same exact papers on the inside, okay? All right. Just makes it easy on me if I just double everything. I'm not looking for too many different parts and pieces. Okay, so I'm going to set that off to the side. So trim all those up off camera. Let's start with our window envelope book page pocket thingy. All right. First things first, I need to cut my envelope to height, and we said that our journal signatures were 8 inches, and I don't want to cut it off the bottom because I don't want things falling out of my envelope. I don't know what happened to my little teeny tiny paper. Oh, there it is. There it is. Wow, that wind outside. My goodness. Okay, so I've trimmed my window envelope to fit. And you'll want to ink up the edges. And then you might even want to put a piece of pattern paper or book page on the inside. You know, I didn't do that on this one. I think I want to do that on that. And now is the great time to do it. I'm just going to grab some scrap book page. Yeah, I like that. Nobody's going to see inside there, so it doesn't matter if it's cut perfectly. Yeah, there we go. I like that. I'm just going to, let me put it back in for a second. I'm just going to put my thumb, my finger, just sort of marking about where my window envelope's at, or my window for my envelope is. There we go. I don't want to put glue in this area. It doesn't have to be glued on really, really well. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay, I made sure not to put glue right there because that's where it's going to go in my envelope, or where it's going to be seen in the window. There. See, I like that better. I like that look better. Okay. I can still always shove a piece of paper down in there if I want to. And then that way, if you do any tags or anything cute that you poke down in there, it'll show through the window. Isn't that fun? Okay. On the back side, I know that my pages, remember, are 5 inches by 8. Okay. So I am going to glue down, let's see, let me think about that for a second. Actually, I'm going to cut them first. Ruler, there you are. 5. I didn't want to have to unfold my paper trimmer, so I'm marking where I need to cut. 5 by 8. And I want them to both be the same size. Probably not going to get all this in the camera. This paper trimmer's big, too big. All right, so I have 2 sheets of book page, 5 by 8. Set that off to the side. Bring my envelope back over. And this time I'm going to, so this is going to be the front of my book page pocket. I'm just going to set it over on top of my envelope. I want to see where I want to glue my envelope flap. Okay, that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to put some glue on my envelope flap. And I'm just sandwiching my envelope flap between my 2 book pages. Okay, so see, now it has a way to be sewn into my journal signature, or a way to be part of my journal signature. Then we're going to put the back part on my pocket. Okay, so I only want to maybe glue down the side, bottom, and back up the other side, okay? You don't want to just glue them all completely together. Unless you just want a page that's a page. If you want to make a book page pocket, then make sure you're only gluing down the side, bottom, and back up, okay? And I think I'm just going to put some light glue on that because I'm going to sew mine. So I'm just going to put enough, tiny bit of glue just to hold it in place while I run it through my machine. Okay, not the top, just the side, the bottom, and the other side. Okay. All right. Trying to get it to meet up exactly. Now I'm going to ink my edges, and then I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew down the side, the bottom, and back up. Okay, be right back. Okay, so now we have a book page pocket. Okay, we have our two book pages sewn together around the edges and the bottom, and then we have a pocket for putting something inside later. I'm not going to create anything for that right now, and I haven't for my original one because I haven't decided yet what I'm doing with that. And I'm just going to cut a little thumb notch there with my circle punch, and give that a little ink up. And then I think later, after we're all done and we have just little bits and scraps of our decorative paper left, that would be a good time to go back and add some color to your book pages with those scraps. But I'm not, so I don't want to do that right now because I'm not sure what I'm going to end up wanting to use. So this is the piece. So when I cut off that 12 by 12 sheet of scrapbooking paper to make the cover, to make our original cover, this is the part that I cut off first, and I'm going to use that to back this envelope. Okay, and I just want it to fit inside my envelope. I keep setting pencils down and they just keep disappearing. It's kind of like socks, you know how you always, oh, it's way back here for some reason. It's like socks in the dryer. It's like something eats them. Okay, measuring the top and the side just so that it will fit where I need it to. And then I'll show you the little trick to gluing it down, or at least a reminder, I should say, a reminder to gluing it down. Hang on, let me trim this. Yes. Okay. So you don't want to get your glue too far over. Some envelopes have this part comes way down. Okay. And so you don't want to just cover the entire sheet of your paper and then glue it down, because then you've essentially glued the envelope closed. This envelope's not too bad. It doesn't cut over very far, but I still would like to get as much room out of it as I possibly can. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. So, you know, like I said, don't put glue over the entire thing and then stick it down. Then you've essentially glued your envelope closed. What I do want to do is put a strip of glue up the side of my envelope here. Across the top, down the side, and then fill in this area of my envelope. So I'm being careful not to get it over here, or if your envelope comes way down, don't put the glue. You know what I'm trying to say. You know it. You know what I mean. I want to glue the paper on it, but I don't want to glue the envelope shut. I have some glue seeping out. Okay, let's see, didn't get quite enough glue on there. So let me do it on my paper. Actually, I'm just going to go back and do it right where I did it before, right along the edge. Let that dry for a second before I mess with it. I'm going to go ahead and ink my edges up. Okay, and then if you wanted to, you could put a little thumb notch like this one over here on your envelope. But I'm going to leave it for now because I want it to go ahead and dry. so I'm not going to mess with it. And I'm also not really going to embellish this right now. I want to wait and see what I have left over when we're done with the project. Okay, so the next little fancy page that was in my journal signature, and I did this twice. I did one for each journal signature. Okay. Next little fancy page. Fancy page. Where did it go? Here it is. Is a book page, or not a book page. It's a paper page, a pocket page. There we go, a pocket page. All right, it was made using a full sheet of 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And what I did is need to cut it to height. I need to cut it to a full 8-inch, or just an 8-inch height. I'll do that in just a second. It is about 3 1/4 is what I had for my pocket. Okay, so let me move this for a minute. About 3 1/4 from the edge of my paper. It's just a guesstimate. It doesn't have to be exact. Okay, that's where I folded. So I'm going to fold on that 3 1/4 inch mark that I just made. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to come over, and my pages, like I said, they're about 5 inches wide. Okay, this is 5 inches. So I'm going to come over here about 5 inches. Actually, I'm going to do a little bit less. It doesn't have to go all the way to the edge. Okay, doing a little bit less. And I'm marking just a little bit. So 5 inches from here to here, actually just a little bit less than 5 inches from here to here, about 4 3/4 or 4 7/8. Okay, and on that mark I just made, I'm going to fold again. And this fold that we just made, this one right here, that's going to be, that's where it goes in your signature at. Okay, so that's this little short piece of paper in there. That's the other side of my paper pocket. Okay, all right. Now, the next thing I did was I took some scrap paper, and I didn't want the raw edge right here catching things that I put in and out of there, and I also wanted to give it a little splash of color. So I took some of my leftover paper, and that is not quite the right height. This one will work. I just cut some of it off. Okay, and I just folded it over. Didn't really matter on the width, about 1 inch or so. My folding's getting a little wonky as I go down. I'm starting to get off course. That's where a scoreboard would come in handy, but I'm not digging it out. Close enough. Close enough. Okay. And then I'm only needing 8 inches. So let me cut that off. Eight inches long. And then I need to trim this up. Hang on, I'll be right with you. Let me just trim this down. Okay, so essentially what I have is just a little 8-inch strip of paper folded in half to be about a width, about 1 inch width. Okay, no big deal, easy peasy. Let me open it up, and I'm going to put some glue on the inside. Oh, I'm like, why is that not fitting? Because I haven't trimmed my actual paper to 8 inches yet. That would help, wouldn't it? See, I need to trim my paper to here. Thought I was forgetting to do something. Yeah, haven't cut my paper off yet. Thought I'd messed up for a minute. Ooh, now that it's folded, I don't have to get the big trimmer out. I can use this one. There we go. Okay. So see, this part here is going to be our pocket. Let me bring it back over. And now I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to, well, I'll show you. I'm going to trim or sew this first, and then around the 2 sides. So I'm going to show you over there. So I'll be right back. Okay. First, let's do this stitch. And this is just purely a decorative stitch. You do not have to do this at all. I just liked the look of it. So I'm just unfolding my paper, and I'm just going to run some stitching. I'm using a zigzag stitch. Just for the fun of it. It really serves no purpose other than to be decorative. Trim that off. Okay, cutesy. All right, now though, this isn't going to be a pocket unless we glue. You don't have to stitch. You could just put some glue right through here, glue that down, put some glue right through here and glue it down, and then you'd have a pocket. So you do not have to stitch it, okay? But I'm going to stitch mine because it's fun. All right. I don't need to put any stitching on this side unless I want to. It would be purely decorative if I did. But I'm starting at where my crease is, and I'm just going to run down this edge. I could sew down this side here, but I don't need to because my paper's folded and that creates the pocket. I mean, I could if I wanted, but all it's going to do is make my pocket more shallow. Waste thread, and I mean, it would just be decorative. So, but that's up to you. Can if you want to. Can if you want to. All right. And doesn't really matter how you put it in the sewing machine one way or the other. Just we're closing up the other end of our pocket. So I'm running my stitching back down the edge, stopping at the crease unless you just want to go forward and make decorative stitching. Up to you how much of your threads you trim as well. All right, I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so that's our decorative pocket, and then we can put some journaling cards, or you can leave it empty or just put some paper in there, whatever you want to do, but you've got a little pocket page to put in your signatures. So bring my signature back over. I still haven't trimmed my papers to size yet, and I will do that. I'll do that off camera. I'll do that before we come back in the next video. So we've done that page. We did the envelope page. Just need to trim my papers. And then the very last thing is right here in the front. I took my leftovers from both of my signatures. So this one, let me bring my other signature in. In this one, I used the leftover blue paper, and then in the blue one, I used the leftover pink paper. Do it however you want to. I just cut some scraps. Let me find them. I just cut some scraps from what we had. In fact, this is a little bit that I trimmed off when we covered the envelope, so I'm just going to use that. And if you have a square, let me just trim it, make sure it's square. 4 by 4, roughly. Now I have a square. Then I'm just going to go from point point to point. I have 2 triangles. I'm going to take some of this scrap paper as well, and I'm going to trim it. Aha! It won't fit in that trimmer. I got to use my big one. Shucky darns. I really like that little paper trimmer. That is handy. Handy, handy. Okay, it's 4 by 4. And then I'm trimming point to point. Okay. So now essentially I have a set of pockets for both of my signature covers. And then to sturdy them up, because they're not very thick, I just glued them to some scrapbook pages. See if I have any. There's some. Maybe that one's not quite the right width. Got some. Just gonna glue these down just to sturdy them up a little bit. So I showed you how I did the one journal signature cover, okay, out of the blue paper, backed it with the book pages. You're going to do that for your second journal cover as well, if you're making yours just like mine. I showed you the pages that I was using inside, and I'm using those same exact pages for my second signature as well, okay? You can do whatever you want. Maybe you want different pages in both of your signatures. And this is going to be my pockets to go for each of my journal covers, or my signature covers. I made a pocket page just like the one we made. I made 2 of those, 1 for each signature. And the junk mail that we created, I made 2 of those, 1 for each signature. So while I'm gluing these on here, I'm just talking about that for a minute. So, because I'm not going to do that second signature on camera, there's no need to. It's identical to the first one. The only thing that's different is I used 2 different pieces of paper for the covers. And then in the next video, we are going to put them into our journal. It's running away from me. This video is a little bit longer than the others before this, so I apologize if you're snoozing. Okay. All right, now I'm going to cut those out, and then we're going to ink them, and then we're going to run them through the machine. Okay, so I've brought my signature back over here. Still haven't trimmed my papers. I'll get that done before next time. And this is my blue signature cover. I'm also having a pink one. And just for the fun of it, I'm going to put the pink pockets in the blue one. Let me slide this back. My glue is over here doing the volcano thing again. Getting all over everything. Ugh. It's almost time for a new bottle. And I'm just going to glue down the side and the bottom. I could have glued this, sewed this directly to my cover, but I didn't want the stitches coming through the other side. I like the look, but I don't want it to go, I don't want it to, you know, have stitches on this side. I don't know. I was just being picky. You do yours however you want to. You don't even have to do any stitching. You can just do gluing and no stitching, and it looks just as good. And bottom and side. And now we have little pockets for the inside of our signature cover. Okay. So at a later time, we'll make the journaling cards to go inside there. Probably not in the next video. In the next video, I would like to get our signatures put together and show you how you can add them to your journal cover. Okay, a couple different options. So that will be it for today. Thanks for joining me. Sorry this video turned out to be a lot longer than the ones we've been having, but it's been a lot of fun. So I will see you next time. Take care, guys. Happy crafting. Bye-bye.